Gotcha. 1 second. Let me get some more libations. We're going to get started. Isis.
Yeah.
Where you at?
Right. I'm on here. Want some water?
Can you hook me up, please? Missy Pooh. Shut up, Sean. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to get ready to finish this up. This is getting ready to get good, y'all. I hope y'all got y'all pencils and y'all papers. I hope you got your pencils and your papers, man. Ooh, I hope you got your pencils and your papers. I hope you got your pencils and your papers. I got our civics and law books printed out, man. So I'm just gonna ship all the books out. Man, this class gonna be beautiful. Like I said, thank you everybody for being patient. Cause like I said, it takes the time. It's only a couple of us that's doing all this work, that's putting all the books together and doing everything. So I lean on my family a lot to help me out with what we're doing. So that's why it takes a little bit more time with me until we build this body. Then we can have something really going on. We can have a real movement. But yeah. So where we stopped at, man, I was demonstrating how the Moorish Quran and how chapter 1 and chapter 11 are comparable and how they synchronize and how those scriptures or how those ayats or whatever you want to call them, how they come together, you know? And our Moorish Quran chapter 1 and chapter 11 is a graphic representation. When we talk about signs and symbols, we have to know that. The plane of spirit, the plane of soul, and the plane of things manifest. When I start teaching y'all about my IDMR teachings, my upbringing, when I show y'all that man made in the image of Elohim, when I show you the most place and the holy place and the quarter roundabout, when I show you that man made in the image of Elohim, and that's the tabernacle made without hands. So I'm going to show you how these teachings synchronizes. We use these scriptures to synchronize. You just been miseducated. And we must be willing to say we've been miseducated, because nowhere, and I mean nowhere, where a person can show me where you can be confused from the teachings if someone properly educates you on the teachings. And that's all type of teachings. Right? But chapter 1 speaks of Allah, the one, and chapter 11 speaks of the true in Allah and the 7 Elohims. Chapter 1 speaks of one thought of Allah, his thought of man, and chapter 11 speaks of the 7 ether planes of experience, literally teeming with unique. You know? Thoughts of Allah that are other than man, that will unfold into perfection of its own kind and another. And chapter 1 speaks of the carnal nature that sprang forth from the soul of experience, of sensation, through the vehicle of the flesh. Right? Islam Noble. And chapter 11 speaks of the sluggish will being the catalyst of, and the rise of the carnal nature being the result of, the fall of, as their original state. All creatures on all planes sustain and nourish their bodies via by what? Breathing. Yet the fall caused the stronger manifest to get nourishment directly from what? Devouring the weaker nature. Are y'all following me? So if we symbolize Moors, or if we draw a graphic representation, remember I tell you signs and symbols of both the chapters in our Moorish Quran, chapter 1 and 11, how I'm synchronizing these scriptures. And if we superimpose one on each other, we get the 10 realms and the spheres spoken on in chapter 11, right? Superimpose over the 3 in chapter 1. And the 3 spheres, the true end, Allah and wisdom, will and love on the spirit plane, and 6 on the soul plane, and 1 on the plane of what, Moors? Manifest. And such a diagram will look what? Quite like what, Moors? What would the diagram look like? Do anybody know? I just showed y'all. Do anybody know what the diagram look like? I bet if I have my empress come out and my mother, they'll be like, well, you just said it. Do anybody know what would the diagram look like? Such a diagram will look quite similar to what? What would the diagram look like? What would the diagram look like? Anybody know? If we don't know, just say we don't know. Because we shouldn't assume nothing, and we shouldn't guess, and we should say I believe. Because nobody should care what nobody believes. 1 Thessalonians 5:21, prove all things and hold fast to what is good. We deal with the science. We know the theory, but the science liberates. The science liberates. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. No. But that's why I said we don't guess, but not the pentagram. No. The pentagram, no. That's why I said if we don't know, we don't. That's a good. I feel where you're coming from, but we're gonna teach. If anybody don't know, just say we don't know. Anybody else got a good? That was a good educated assumption, but you were sincere, and it's a thing being sincerely wrong, and we must accept it. That's all. But no. Anybody else? Anybody else? This is how we learn. This is how we learn, man. And we speak up because the teachers correct us. Anybody know? Come on, man. Somebody talk to me. Islam. I don't know Islam. That's why we're here to learn. That's why I said with me, you're going to get educated on the right and the proper things. And that's okay because we can be corrected with love. Anybody else? Come on, y'all. Watch this. Nope. Islam, but nope. Watch. I'm going to tell y'all. Watch how we synchronize all these teachers as ours. That's why I be saying, man, it be connotated. Anybody else? Anybody else? If not, man, listen here. Watch this. Let me reverse. Such a diagram, Morris, will look quite similar to the Kabbalistic tree of life. Right? And yet we are Moorish American Muslims. And this teaching was gleaned from our prophet's literature. And so we are not Moors discussing Hebrew Kabbalah, but Moors discussing Islam as taught by our prophet Noble Drew Ali. Are y'all following me? When I say everything that outer symbol, science symbol, symbolizes the inner body. These the inner teachings. That's why I say this is 99 degrees. When I say this, Memphis and Mizraim. In the biblical scriptures, Mizraim is Egypt. Y'all didn't know that? Research Keem in the Karu. This is your science. When you take the diagram, we find that if we number the 10 spheres and the 6 spheres and counting from the top 3 would be situated exactly in the middle of the region of the soul plane. When you got to look at things for reference, when we talk about things connotated, when they talking about a religious aspect, so I'll use a religious aspect. When we talk about the Hebrews call the plane and the sphere, the Tirith or the Tifrath, Tifareth. And we also find the ninth plane and the sphere intersecting the border dividing the plane soul or the soul plane and the plane of manifest. And the 10th sphere solidly located on the plane of the manifest, Morris. And chapter 11 informs us that the true and Allah appointed the 7 Elohim to weave the elaborate virgin soul. Y'all follow me? That material that becomes the blueprint for all manifest beings. Right? The repository for the teeming thoughts of Allah to manifest and grow and unfold. And chapter 1 informs us that the one very special thought of Allah, the thought of his own presence within his creation, that's in our Quran 2:30 and 34, is cast forth into the soul of the soul, and it grew apace, gaining self-awareness and lordship in the 6th period, counting a total of 7 periods, stages, days of creation within the circle, emanating from the top 3 spheres, the truant Allah. And this is our 6th day or 6th period, right? In the Shemana of the manifest creation, or in that essence, and how the universe is populated by Allah's thought. Come on, man. Chapter 1 in our Moorish Quran, it tells us that upon this boundary of the plane of the soul, the essence took on a final garb, right? What garb you think it's talking about? Flesh. And we find the ninth sphere situated on the boundary with the 10th sphere, firmly within the plane of manifest. And in the Aramaic language, the numbers are the letters. And so it should not surprise us that 1 equals Elf or Alf and 10 equals Yah or Yod, or a mathematical depiction of Allah, the one of the highest plane of spirit life. Right? Represented by the first of the high trinity of the spheres that the Hebrews call what? Kether or Kether. Kether. And his presence within the manifest creation, represented by the 10th or the last sphere that the Hebrews call what? Maluth or Malkuth. Malkuth. Called by the noble Quran of Mecca, Khalifa. Referring to who? The first man. Man, I can get so deep with this, man. When we talk about this number system, 1, 3, 7, and 10, the aspects of God and man, when we put the square, the triangle, and then the 3 circles intertwining with each other, and the grand and the glorious truth that's communicated about this is again given in the plainest language in Act 2 of our divine constitution and bylaws, where we are taught very briefly, yet thoroughly or very, very manufacturally, that this first man or these atoms were not born of a woman, but formed in the flesh on the 6th day and did not die, but voluntary, disintegrated the flesh vessel or departed out of the flesh. Again on the 6th day, thus demonstrating the almighty truth about man, that there is no death to man. And while Allah lives, man cannot die. In the prompt opening and the closing of the meetings that should go in the temples according to the principles embodied in the Circle 7, guiding ourselves in our fallen state by our 5 principles of love, truth, peace, and freedom and justice. On the most auspicious day, we participate in our own Moorish American way in the practice of perfection and nearness to our great God Allah. Right? So, as I leave y'all, man, we're going to talk about the Ajana briefly, or the third eye chakra that is located between the brows in the inward center of the forehead. Ajana means command, boundless, perception, infinite wisdom through knowledge of God's self, universal authority. Through the Ajana, one is moved beyond the world of dualities into the peacefulness of neutrality. Here we go, we talk about that pendulum of the cosmos, beyond the pearl of the blue ether planes. Remember part 1, I was just talking about this. Physically, the third eye is associated with the what? Pituitary gland. Eyes and brains, because there is the soul. That's where it resides, you know? Although the Ajana radiates from the element light, its colors are purple and indigo. The pure heart and mind. Our prophet said, there is but one way for man to be produced, and there are 1,000 by which he may be destroyed. Right? Researching your Moorish Quran, chapter 44, verse 7. Like so, Moors, there is but one true way for man to see himself. Right? Only one way. The truth. The truth. All his others, observance, are subject to change and pass away, which is commonly called the third eye. It procreated human descendants as heads, limbs, organs. Every member born with a navel, just like on your fez, our navel, into the human family has their own. Right? And due to this fall, he or she has stumbled blindly into every evil, This is things that we've done ourselves, you know? So the human eye, Moors, we talk about the human eye. It is a professionally known fact that the human eyes do not actually see objects, Moors. Let me see something. You didn't know that? Instead, they process light waves from objects that either absorb or reflect. And the eyes measure about 1 inch in diameter, but can be trained to capture stars far enough away for a powerful telescope to barely find. Don't y'all understand this synchronicity as proven by the Dogon Moorish people, right? Of West Africa, and you got to focus upon a single grain of sand, and still, with the absence of the 7 colors, from one light, the eye of the flesh can see nothing and will otherwise be worthless, Moors. That's why we got to understand that all things can be seen by human eyes. Our manifest of aught are naught, and so must pass away. Are we clear with that science? That's why that's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 7 and 8. Write that scripture, write that ayat down. These things they see are just reflexes, appearing fast, too slow, or thus and so. Are you following me? When we see things moving so fast, we don't understand it. These reflexes change as their conditions change. So they do not always appear the same. That's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 1. Most of these things seen by the human eyes must feed from the rate of the atmosphere and are caught up in conflicts of survival and the reflex duration called time, which keeps the subjected to change. That's why when I talk about the silent brotherhood of the East, when a person say they elite and they're not, and when I talk about this ancient wisdom, they don't understand where it's coming from and they give it to somebody else and I'll just shake your hand and walk away. But when we talk about the masters of the Golden Temple of Tibet, what do our Moorish Quran say where these teachings was locked up at? When speaking of the eyes, the sentinels that watch for thee, yet how often are they able to distinguish truth from error? That's in your Moorish Quran 27 and 8. This verifies the fact that most things change even as the eye watches. That's why man plays one-eye games. But when he closes one of his 2 eyes, he is either peeping to hide some or weakening at some wrongdoing. See, we can teach these teachings, man. That's why the prophets and the sages and the saints and the masters of Africa, India, and the Orient, and our prophets and teachers like myself that carry on these teachings, specialize in the science of meditation. When I say meditation, when I ask more, I say, you don't meditate, I shake your hand. Man, we fight this physical and the spiritual. If you're not connecting yourself to the higher plane, you don't know how to attract nothing to you. That's why you operate in our lower self. That's why our houses not operate in more science. We got to operate in a higher plane. We got to live it. We can't just act like this is who we are on the internet. That's the only way we can convince our family, especially our inner family, especially your emperors and your babies. The whole house should be Moors and proud of it. Some yogis of India will mark their entrance to the 3rd eye, but that's outward symbology. We don't need to mark nothing because we are the essence of this. All we must do is activate it. They'll put something on their forehead with a red kumkum called a bimbi or a bimdi. And this symbolizes their knowledge of the inward spiritual journey. But this fez, see, in our culture, this fez, you see my tassel 24 inches. This symbolizes my wisdom. Just like the graduation cap. Just like I broke down the history of the fez and why my fez is black. The golden cord of meditation binds all the lives of the so-called Moses, the so-called Abrahams, the Buddhas, the Yahshuas, the Muhammads, and all the masterminds. Whether they went to a mountaintop, cave, desert, wilderness, sat on your balcony, or some sacred place of solitude. That's your higher plane, your sacred place. It could be right in your living room. And we detach ourselves away from humanity. To do what? To meditate in order to become what? One with the Creator. And we always return into a state of what? Bliss. I am that I am, or I will be what I will to be. My Father and I are one. In more science, God and man is one. Arm, leg, arm, head. Manifestation of self. I, self, law, and master. This ain't no Al-Islam. God is me, and I am in God. And in my Father's house are many mansions. And what I have done, all men must do, and greater still. These and all true leaders of men not only possess this third eye, but also we all have the wisdom to use it. That's our prayer and meditation. That's our prayer and meditation. Above all these, God men, all of us warned, none but the pure in heart shall see God. And to keep your heart and mind purified with love. That's Acts 7. Shallow men and their callow brothers nearly always veil the subject of the infamous third eye because they don't understand it in mystery and secrecy. But it's nothing secret with me. Under the auspices of you can't feed a baby steak. That's that garbage. Like when they say you can't touch my anointing because they don't know and they're not operating. They present their scarcity human knowledge of the subject as powers beyond their beings or too magnificent for you to comprehend. Basically, this is all bull crap. You right? You got to discard mystery because mysteries are but mere reflexes of the known flashed before the ignorant and the ill-informed. Are you following me? While we are doing things, we may as well throw out that Satan's whisper or that bullcrap secret. A secret is just one man's ability to delay the great God Allah, to delay the truth from another man. But I'm not here to do that. That's why I say I'm your brother. I'm a teacher. I'm not delaying the truth from you. Basically, Moors, man is like fruit falling from a tree. She is an unreal being and does not know his faith is his creator, is far too weak for him to have secrets. This is why fallen humanity cannot have secrets. They have been secrets. All of them have been exposed since the Garden of Eden and their mental retardation. All this stuff has been revealed. I removed the veil on all that crap. Only the great God Allah has secrets, and even those are simply treasures from which man is to learn wisdom. That's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 24 and 1. He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? He that teaches man knowledge, listen to what I'm saying. He that teaches man knowledge, shall he not already know? Psalms 94, 9 and 10. Yet no finite mind can comprehend the infinite. That's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 1. The third eye, as seen by humanity, Moors, when we talk about signs and symbols, are for men of understanding. We use the chart, our course to perfection. That's why you got to understand why a light bulb symbolizes the concept of what? An idea. Or why a realization is spoken of what? As seeing the light. That's why wisdom is depicted by the semblance of what? A glow or a halo. Follow the symbology. While someone uses his or hers God powers to create, why is this perception of it referred to as a bright idea? That's why you got to understand how those with minds of wisdom have been enlightened or illuminated. Even those like the so-called Moses, when we understand the stories, when we understand the essence of the symbology, and the burning bush, who have witnesses God's grace, speaks of the glow of the brightness Understand the analogy. That dazzling in the human life. There are daily references to the third eye, although mostly unnoticed, yet is cited by many names. The all-seeing eye, the star of the east, the day star, the psychic, the bindi or the Sanskrit, the eye of the inner vision, spiritual perception, center of the focal point, the apex, the epitome or pyramid, mind over matter. Are we clear with that? 1 second. That's simple. Stop laughing. My fault. I had to check something, y'all. But you see that? But those are to identify just a few. And the most famous one in the Western Hemisphere is the all-seeing eye of the god above the African pyramid on the rear seal of the United States government. When you talk about Illuminati and they getting you caught up with this goofy stuff, and I tell you, you are the Illuminati, you are the enlightened one. And it's displayed on every dollar bill and government building and publicized in the U.S. properties. And the origin, however, is over 10,000 years old and was the banner of the first African civilization. It was the capstone with the third eye attached to the base of the pyramid. You know that, right, Morris? And it should be remembered that many of the great pyramids of Africa were built and used in the use by the same time that the, no disrespect, that pale skins nations of Europe began crawling out of certain areas. It's just what it is, man. The so-called Illuminati is the most powerful, secretive organization governing nations today. And its symbol is also the pyramid, which detached the all-seeing eye. That's why you got to understand when you don't get caught up in things, ain't nothing scary. The Illuminati is compiled of certain things, government systems, World Trade Organizations, councils of foreign relations, trilateral commissions, the Bilderbergers, quasi-secret and consortiums, those things. It ain't nothing else, man. You got to understand, if you elite, you know this and you operate. That's why when you talk about the Illuminati is the prophesized 10-headed beast. When we talk about what context are you coming from? Because words have duality. Just like when a person says 666, and I say, I got to research where you coming from. Because 666 mean a plethora of things. If you understand the context, because 666 dealing with man, dealing with us, means 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. The chemical makeup of man. You see? But it also, the Illuminati is prophesied as the 10-headed beast, compiled of the family dynasties, which own or command entities of the Federal Reserve System, the World Banks, the International Courts of Justice, all that stuff, stock exchanges. We know that. Ain't no secret of that. You know, that's why I say we are the Illuminati. I mean, if you enlighten on, that's just like if you enlighten on something, how can it hurt you? That's why I be saying, more we get caught up with spookism or Y2K finna happen. It never was a time when man was not. The world don't gonna end. How do you know? Or some man gonna tell you when the world end, and you gonna fall for that. But you connected to nature. When the world ends, that's when you will start falling off the map because we connected to nature. What you say, Noble? One more time, taking notes. Oh, when I talk about the different concepts of 666, depending on the context, because when we're dealing with ourselves, man, this the thing I keep telling y'all. Remember, when people take our science and they westernize it, they take all animal pious figures. They are nothing but hieroglyphs. And they take all your science and make it scary. So in the context of man, 666 is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, the chemical makeup of man. But also in another explanation of it, it can mean something else, like the government. Are we clear? So that's why you got to understand. But since the Illuminati, per se, took over the U.S. governments in 1913 through the President Woodrow Wilson, this U.S. SEAL, and we talk about Illuminati, it's just their group, their skull and bones. They're part of a secret society, but they created off your science. That's why I said you got to understand who you are and operate in a higher self. If they're sons of Muslims and they're only 32 and 33 degrees, that's just snowman wisdom. In meteorology, that's when water freezes. This 99 degrees, man. But this U.S. SEAL is actually the mark of the great Illuminati per se. And the word Illuminati means enlightened. They actually believe that they are self-made gods, but we can go all in that in a whole nother symbol, in a whole nother teaching. But other symbols of the third eye, the power of the one eye has been portrayed as aliens and cyclops. Remember I told y'all they take your teachings and they turn into caricatures and throw you off, like the Tasmanian Devil, or how they make things cartoons like Johnny Quest, and about the feds in a turban, just like in G.I. Joe, when they had the brother they turned blue, the mercenaries, all in the stuff, it was Moors, they was calling you Moors, and we never knew. We never knew. Just like Cyclopses. Cyclops are supposed to be the original Adam, with no navel, 20 feet tall, with one eye, and live for thousands of years. Yet portraits are reflections of man's outer vision. Are you following me? There are numerous other symbols of adornment worn by humans to show awareness of the third eye. Jewelry centered on turbans, tattoos, moles, all that. But today, men acting like Adam have become so busy with ungodly things and afraid and ashamed to totally ignorant of their third eye. And man doubts of the third eye have grown strong and has created modern day fig leaves to cover his stupidity. That's what we do now. We cover ourselves up in stupidity by what? Jewelry and clothes, like you know something. And you can be, just because you look like you know something don't mean nothing. When a person starts asking you about who you are, you get mad. That's why Moors don't wear the fez, because they're not students of who they are. And these fig leaves vary from higher holy men. All this stuff, you know. And even these Moors, that in these westernized masonry groups with their worshipful masters, you know. That's why you got to understand about this third eye and the purpose of it. And the purpose for the third eye is for man to see the self, the great God. And in reality, these two, as truth, are one. Yeshua said to Lamas, a Brahmic priest of India's Jagannath, there is a power in the eye. That's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 7, verse 17. This power in the eye is directed by man's thinking while using that holy breath. The breath is a force and is recognized as what? Divine love. If you love this and your empress is not with it, you should be spreading love to her every day, showing you what this is about. And if you can't teach it right, you should be linking up with the right ones to show this is who you are and this is who we are, from love. Because this is what we do. This is what we're supposed to do. Everything else, secondhand. But without this power of love divine, no one can use the eye to see the truth, to see the God within. Impossible. What is truth? Truth is the great God. It is the only thing that does not change. What is love? Love is the spirit of the great God. Love is wisdom, light, force, life, and will, divine activity. Only the pure in heart can see the truth, Moors. And this is why the third eye is sacred. I didn't say secret, I said sacred. Why you think in our Moorish science our eye is not bound down with no triangle? Our eye is not covered. Our eye roams freely. Just like my tassel rolls freely. If I want my tassel to be on the left, well, by the great God Allah, I'll have it on the left. My tassel flows freely because there's 360 degrees of wisdom. Then it goes to 720. My wisdom is not tied down. Y'all following where I'm going? The third eye. This is why the third eye is sacred and pure as opposed to secret. One's thoughts must be excluded above the inharmonious, the karmic, reaping, and the worlds of times and dualities. This is the main reason why the mental manumissions of African slaves, the true knowledge of themselves and their free national name, is the most well-kept European secret in 400 years. Just like when Negro, blacks, and color and Latinos be joining European westernized masonry. And I tell you, don't you know you Haram Abif? Oh, they got a patch on their chest talking about something in memory of Haram Abif. Okay, and you don't understand that the secret is you? And then my empresses, when I tell my empresses, I say, you are Mayat, you are the Eastern Star, you are able to wear that white fez with the gold tassel. That's you, empresses. I keep telling you that they wear the fez in clandestine from European masonry and the Daughters of American Revolution. They wear the white and the gold tassel, and they bury our empresses in the shallow grave. I'm telling you, this is your right. This is our science. It's impossible to enslave any man who is conscious of the great God. It's impossible. And its powers of the God self and the I awareness, the activities that these powers possess, how it activates certain things. Yeah, we got room, man. We getting ready to start. I got everybody books in. We get ready to ship them out. Everything is coming in, man. Everything is coming in. We're going to have a beautiful teaching. It's going to be systematic. And these classes are for life, man. But the third eye is the only gateway leading to the heart of man. Through the heart of man is the straight pathway to Allah. That's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 7 and 27. The power of pure thought is the only key to open the entrance. I told y'all the key to salvation rests in our hands, but it must be activated. That's okay. We must activate these chakras. There is no other conscious path to the Father of the universe and to all the world seen and unseen. Through the third eye, man becomes wise to the reality that he or she and God is one. Are y'all following me? Our prophet was an Egyptian adept master, just like myself, on giving holy instructions from the Grand Temple of Tibet. He said that there is still much wisdom to be learned from the descendants of Africa. Would you raise your thoughts to infinite wisdom? That's what the Akashic record was. It was the infinite wisdom. Something informs thy clay higher than thy senses. It is the object of thy search, and you must keep your heart and mind pure with love. And these teachings are directing man and woman to his powers within himself or herself, rather than outside of yourself. Spirit man is pure thought, activity, and cannot die. And his own lack of things is the sole cause of his suffrage. Remember I showed you when they went to voting what suffrage was? And I showed you an analogy in the Bible, how the analogy of suffrage was cutting Samson's hair. And in politics, it was losing your right to vote. We'll teach that in our civics class. In the illusion of his present weak-minded state, and he and she must think again in order to save himself or herself. And a third eye is a saving power, which comes from the great God Allah through our ancient fathers by the prophets. Y'all following that? To save is to salvage the living from the dead. We trying to bring ourselves back to something. Me and my dad used to use the analogy of physically alive, but spiritually dead. You disconnected from the Father. You're physically alive, but you're spiritually dead. You're a walking zombie. Just like I used the analogy of when I used to teach in all houses, and I said, you think the light switch is the source of the power. The light switch ain't the source of the power. The light switch is the electricity. Or you don't put your faith in a trinket. Or you don't put your faith in something, but not the vessel, not the essence. The light switch ain't nothing. We cut the electricity off. Your light switch don't mean nothing. You powerless. So if I cut the electricity out of you, then what? The vessel is no good. physically alive, but spiritually dead. Hence the word salvation. Salvation is using the third eye for salvation. And Yahshua again told Lammas that salvation is the ladder. What ladder? Here we go talk about that 12-step ladder. What do we use that 12-step ladder for? It's in your Moorish Quran. Reaching from the heart of man to the heart of the great God, Allah, in man. Arm, leg, arm, head. Nothing outside yourself. It has 3 steps. Belief is first. Belief is first. Belief is first. How you going to say you following something and you rocking with something and you don't believe it? That's why I be telling Moors, I said your belief has to be based on something. And this is what man thinks perhaps is truth. And faith is next. And this is what man knows is truth. Fruition is the last. And this is man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith. And in fruition, faith is lost. And man is saved when he or she has reached deficit life. When he reached that pinnacle. And he and she and God are one. In more science, God and man is one. What I have done, all men can do. That's in your Moorish Quran 7:27-31. It's often said that there is more than meets the eye, right, Moors? There is much mental in these messages that I deliver to Moors. When we talk about the bliss of the third eye, even in the biblical scriptures, even the Bible states that if therefore thine eye be single. Listen to the science when Moors be getting stuff twisted. Listen to me. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Woo, that's nasty. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. Are y'all hearing me? When you talk about you get motivation, all the motivations I need is to correct me. Is my teachers the right way? That's how I operate 720. That's how I attract things to me. And we're going to attract things together. We are magnets, man. Listen to this. In the biblical scriptures, this states, if therefore thy eye be single, what single eye? Therefore, when thy eye is single, thy whole body is full of light. But when the eye is closed, when your kundalini is in a knot, evil, thy body is full of darkness. So take heed, therefore, the light which is in thee be not darkness. Luke 11:34 and 35. Both Matthew and Luke were disciples of Yahshua. If we're going to tell a story, and the Christ within gave them these lessons of the third eye, which he himself had his open while in India for nearly 18 years. I be telling Moors, and I be like, this ain't, when we talk about, this ain't the story of everybody's life. This is the story of a particular family. Genesis ain't the story of everybody created in the world. This is the story of a particular family. That's why I want to say Israel, and I love Israel and these teachers for a particular family. This ain't explaining the creation of everything. Come on. Man's third eye is God's latchkey. He left it with us. We got to build, it's built in to his spirit children of thought, topside planet mud. And this key is the only sure entrance back home, connecting ourselves to the great God Allah. But first man must know himself. And this was also the key. This was the key of the so-called Adam and Eve used before they wanted to see their physical eye, which showed their nakedness. Man's lost in the weirdness of ignorance has only 2 things he needs to do, and to know himself and his creator. Nothing else surpasses. And this is the highest degree of thinking. This is in our Moorish Quran 38 and 28. So if you don't like what I'm saying, it's in your Moorish Quran. Don't get mad at me. Curse your Moorish Quran. That's how I know Moors don't study their teachings. That's why our homes are not right with our empresses and our children, because we're not using these teachings to correct our family, and everything is in there for correction. If man truly knows, he must be what he knows. Woo! I said, if man truly knows, he must be what he knows. So if you know something, why are you not exhuming it? Why are you posting black laws and all that? If you can defend it, go defend it for yourself. Don't say what you can do. Go defend it for yourself. If you know something, because if you know something, man must be what he knows. Man cannot be himself unless he knows himself, that he and God are one. Our third eye, and you got to understand one, and I'm done. It's necessary to understand the seven eyes. The septic, the eyes are often referred to in Hebrew as the Elohim. Did y'all know that? Our prophet Noble Ali had taught the Moors that the Elohim is sometimes called the seven eyes of Allah. What you say? What's the cost or a dude living in Arizona, Noble? I mean, it all depends. It all depends, man. It just all depends. I mean, it just depends on how you live. I mean, and how you spend your finances. To me, it's nothing because I'm conscious of everything I do. You know, so to me, it's nothing, but it might be an issue to people if a person, I'm not saying you particularly more, I'm just saying if a person spend their finances on things that don't matter, like clothes and going out to eat all the time, you know, and I do business. So to me, it's nothing. But it just depends on how you living and what your standards of living in. But it's nothing, man. If you a boss, it's nothing. It's nothing at all. I promise you. I'm in Tucson, and I'm in right now in Marana, and I be in Phoenix area because I got Moors in Phoenix and I go teach there. So I'm all over. I love it, man. But other times the Elohim is called creative fate or the seven creative spirits. And 7 is the number upon which all worlds and the universe are created. And it's the number of completion. 7 is the number for all living things, the totality of man's thinking and the gnosis of the understanding, the 7 ethereal planes of protoplast, earth, plant, beast, man, angel, and cherubim. They all encompass the 7 days of the creation when we talk religion per se. But however, Morris, we will get deep in the primary subject of the 7 seals of the human body, because the third eye is one of them, Morris. That's why it's 7 seals within the human body, known by the Christ, the prophets, the mamas, the adapts, and the other masters as the 7 chakras. That's why you got to understand that 7 is the number of divine creation, Morris. The 7 chakras are created within every living man, even if born without the external legs and arms. And they are located from the mind through the base of the spine and our astral nerve centers, which correspond with the 5 elements of earth, air, water, fire, earth, and ether, or that fear. The 6 chakras are called the Ajana or the Ajana, or the Sanskrit is the third eye. And this glorious Ajana is the pure and a powerful passageway of righteousness, prayed for by every Arabic speaking Muslim. I'll promise you this, when reciting the holy Al-Fatih, I promise you this. That's why you got to see the prayer. And on the 6th, it shows us the straight way. And the 7th, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed the grace, those whose portion is not wrath or saved, and whose prophets go not astray. That's in your Quran Surah, chapter 1, verse 6 and 7. What you say when I try to do the chakras? Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. It's the way you do it. That's why you got to understand your prayer and meditation. It's things that you must do, just like practice. It's things that you must do. That's why when more say, how long is it going to take? I don't know. It depends on you. These are things that you must do. These are things that how you conjure yourself. So when you come into wisdom, there's no certain time. It might take some a lifetime. It might take some faster because their aptitude is at a certain level of Gnosticism to where we can adapt things and relay it, and it can manifest higher, or how can I say, at a faster rate than others. And there's nothing wrong with that. When a man's body is first formed, Moors. It is then centered with life from within the brain with the seventh chakra and his God spirit or the seventh chakra and a soul to think with the sixth chakra. It makes him a living thing. Within the creative seven are vibrations of love, immutable truth, and bliss, unknown by men, bound by human knowledge. The Hindus and the nobles, Drew Ali, we call this the astral body. We call this a beautiful body. And often the carnal man is taught that he must face the east to focus his prayers to God. But the followers of a Mosaic laws, the Torah, established a place in Jerusalem, and later their brothers with Quranic laws cleaned up the Kaaba in the city of Mecca for the same religious customs. And these easts are founded upon the original places where God created the first physical man and his commands. Prophet Abraham is the true father of both Yahshua, Isaac, and Muhammad, Ishmael. I hope y'all followed it. If you're going to study the teachings, this is why the east for both of these great grandsons of Abraham is never far apart, Moors. Nevertheless, you got to understand that the earthly east are only symbolic centers for these two major religions of the world. But they are not the nearest place for man to meet his creator. Where do we meet our creator? We meet our creator in the heart. All this other stuff is slave teachings. I'm telling you. That's why Africa is the garden referred to in the Bible and the Torah. Man, the first physical man, was formed in the east. In the east end of where? The garden. Known as what? Eden. That's how we clear up the religious controversy. The last thing what a Mason knows is the first thing that a Moor should know. Who made you? Allah. Can we see him? No. Where is the nearest place we can meet him? In the heart. No matter how righteous a person claims to be, Moors, no matter how great the station they hold over other men, meaning their titles, a true knowledge of the third eye, the east, is necessary to meet the great God. That's why when I hear Moors, they don't talk about the third eye. They activate nothing. How can? And we living on this physical and the spiritual. They don't understand it. The wisdom of the third eye is what truly separates gods from men. I'm not your king. I'm living on a higher plane. I'm just a vessel and a map. Its pathway is the line between divinity and matter. That's why you got to understand. You can't make a mistake about this truth, about this fix up, how the heart should be, and the conscious man centers. That's right. You is the true east within. North, east, south, and west are earthbound. Directional poles established by man to keep himself from further losing his way. When I break geographical land masses down, when I talk about Ethiopia, when I say that ain't nothing but a demarcation line, people in path of wisdoms are not conformed or confined to latitudes and longitudes. That's why I say my tassel is not pinned down. I'm not confined to no latitudes and longitudes. These are earthly directive bound by man within the limits of his own human knowledge. These boundaries which begin and end are now gods that men have created for themselves to serve. And these gods now control the journey of men by departure and destination. But that ain't more science. If man must see God, he must look within. Then he will see God is not confined to space, nor time, nor directional, but is omnipotent. When we talk about that Adam and so-called Eve story. And I'm going to leave y'all with this, Moors. The seventh chakra is described by the Buddhists as 1,000 petal lotus called the Shashara. This is the boundlessness unto where the third eye unfolds. Man is a thinking thing with a will and is accountable for his or her actions. And the 7 seals of the human body are thought activated and is subject to man's will. They are aligned and rooted from the head of man downward to the end of the spine, the 7th to the 1st. One chakra controls all 6 mores. You got to understand that. For man to center the third eye, his thought patterns must then be reversed. The reverse from the 1st to the 7th is necessary because man must raise his thought from humanity fallen state back to infinite wisdom, or from his bottom to the top, or from finite to infinite. Are y'all following me? I hope y'all follow me, Moors. But your chakras are your crown chakra is the base. The 4-leaf lotus, sacral chakra, your solar plex chakra, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and your crown chakra. I can synchronize all this to all the signs and symbols. The medulla, the lower end of the spinal column, the swastisthana, the genital organs, the navel, the heart, the throat, the third eye between the eyebrows, in the brain or your soul. That's in your Moorish Quran, chapter 32, verse 1. The third eye, Moors, or that 6th chakra, is protected against man's negative stuff on all levels. And no earthbound thought can possess that ether. I'll break that chart. I'll do that in class, man. That's going to be on for the class. The 7th chakra, the seal, the 1,000 petal lotus, is the divine nature within the throne of the force, the kingdom of God, and the mercy seat. At its footstool is the primary pituitary gland of the brain, right? The pituitary has the capacity of imitating an essence of melanin that allows the divine energy to flow into one's what? Consciousness. And this creates the thin path, uniting matter to divinity, connecting the God-man to his father, God Allah. This is the essence of man's natural and divine breast milk per se. The fact about melanin are reluctantly being released to the world of intellects. Man, we got to know certain things, man. Our prophet took us into the third eye. The greatest meeting of all time is when man meets the knowledge of self. And our prophet Noble Drew Ali returned to all of Moorish Islamism. The greatest meeting to take place in heaven and earth resides only in the heart. That's why the scripture says, I want the same thing on earth as it is in heaven. And the ancient religions of the Moorish is the realization of the God self through the perfecting of man. And this was the very first religious creed founded by the ancient African forefathers after the fall in man, where the knowledge of self became the first law of divinity, which is our old time religion, receiving the greatest known world knowledge that the first committed in civilization and became known as the ancient Egyptian systems. Islam, Noble. Islam for the kind words, but I'm here. We can change this, man. We can change this, man. Especially economically, man. We get 100 more is giving $100 a month, man. Don't y'all know that's 120 grand? Don't y'all know what I can show you what we can have and build? We can have businesses, man. We can become successful and multimillionaires fast because a beggar nation cannot save itself. And if we don't have economics, we'll never do nothing. We'll just be trading hours for dollars. But Islamism gives the Moors complete instructions on the 7 chakras, seals fixed within the body. And these lessons are one of the major courses in building the temple of the perfected man. That's the heart of man. And I leave y'all with that, man. I love y'all. Islam. If y'all haven't enrolled, man, enroll. If you need to make payments, hit me up. We can get down with that. You don't want to miss these teachings. Islam.